So I came across the Amtrak train network map, and if you zoom into the northeast where I'm from, you can see that the network creates this sort of loop around New England. Now there is this loop here, but you can't practically ride around the whole thing in one day, which is what I wanted to do. So I'm calling this right here the New England Loop. I thought it would be really fun to spend a day riding around the whole thing, which brings me to Kingston, Rhode Island. I start by taking the Northeast Regional at basically 11 a.m. up to Boston Back Bay. Then I take the Lakeshore Limited out to Springfield, and then I'm going from Springfield to New Haven on the Hartford line, and finally leaving around 7:30 from New Haven all the way back to Kingston. And the reason I chose Kingston as my starting point was because of pricing and the Lakeshore Limited being only once a day. So here's how it went. So here is Kingston Station, which is the oldest continuously operating wooden train station in the entire country. This is the inside of the station. They have a little history cabinet over here that I was checking out. They actually have a staff ticket window here, which you don't see very often at smaller stations nowadays. And over here, you've got this second room with more seating and bathrooms on the right. There's constantly announcements going on, so I had to get used to that while I waited for my delayed train. Spoiler alert, my train did not come on time. I found this really funny, how they have these vending machines that may or may not vend. So yeah, my train was unfortunately delayed by only 15 minutes though, so it wasn't too bad, but every extra minute here means less time than I have, and time between trains isn't very long. But here's my train finally coming in. 11:16, rolling in. Just like that, heading off to Providence as the next stop. I was able to find an empty window seat, which is not always easy to do on a Northeast Regional train. Sometimes you gotta walk down a bit to find one. But pretty quickly here, we ended up getting up to speed. Up to 125 miles per hour is the top speed. Going from Kingston to Providence on this train is actually twice as fast as driving, which I thought was pretty cool. 19 minutes versus like 35 to 40. Here we're coming by the Providence Airport, where you actually go right through the parking garage. I don't know what was going on with these people behind me, but they're pretty interesting.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, attention please. We're now coming into our station stop, Providence, Rhode Island. Thank you for traveling with Amtrak, and have a pleasant day. Join us here out of Providence. Please have your tickets out, ready for inspection.
Now leaving Providence, making our way out of Rhode Island here.
Attention please, in just a moment we will be arriving at our station stop, Route 128 Denham Westwood. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're now down to the final two stops, so listen carefully. Our next stop coming up in about 10 minutes from now will be Back Bay, Cobley Square. 5 minutes after Back Bay will be the final stop, Boston South Station.
And we're already approaching Boston. Went by really fast. Getting off here in Back Bay. I had less than 40 minutes to do a few things that I wanted to do, so I didn't end up taking many videos here. But this is me headed back into the station to find the Lakeshore Limited to Springfield. Pretty interesting station. And since this train didn't originate hundreds of miles away, it was right on time. Boarding this train was really strange because there's only about 20 people and it ended up taking 5 minutes to get on because everyone was slowly walking up just into one door, and you either went left or right depending on what your destination was. So I was not able to get a window seat this time. This was the first video I took after we had passed our first stop, Framingham. Very few people used this station. I think 2 people got on and I didn't see anybody get off. There's only 2 stops on the entire trip from Boston to Springfield. 2.5 hours, 2 stops is just kind of crazy. They may only have 2 coach cars here, but I love the seating setup. You just have so much space. It felt brand new, super comfortable. Never been on this train before. But yeah, until this train gets out to Albany, New York, there's just 2 coach cars, a dining car, and a sleeper car, and then 2 locomotives. It combines with a train from New York City in Albany, and then it heads all the way out to Chicago, which is where the guy next to me was headed. 22 hours from Boston. Here we're approaching Worcester, where the station is completely under construction, so the train stops a little before the station, and it's this weird area. A couple people got on, didn't see anybody get off. Leaving Worcester, you can see the whole area that's under construction. There's the actual station building. This was the last of the videoing that I did for this part of the trip. Definitely a lot longer than the first Northeast Regional, but this still did go by pretty quickly. Arrived in Springfield here with a really weird station. I don't know what was going on here. Something must have happened. I don't know the history of this place, but it felt bizarre having to walk over the tracks up here. I also didn't expect to see another train rolling in right here. That's because this was the late Vermonter train heading down to DC from St. Albans. It was like 30 to 40 minutes late. I walked up this ramp and down into the station, which was much nicer on the inside. I only had a half hour until my next train, so I decided to just head back up and see what was going on. That's the next train I'll be taking. So that was that for Springfield. Just as we're leaving here, a mom and her kid had to sit right across from me. I didn't feel like saying anything, but they had no problem blasting cartoons with no headphones. We got 7 stops on this train, Hartford being by far the most popular stop before getting to New Haven. Crossing the Connecticut River here, going over a very old bridge, over 100 years old. They are in the process of replacing it. We're approaching the first stop, Windsor Locks, which right here is a brand new station that they're constructing. The current one is probably the worst station in all of Connecticut. It's just up the road here.
The station stop is going to be done at Windsor Locks. Once again, this is Windsor Locks.
Most of the route from Hartford to Springfield is only single track, so I think this here is part of the work to double track it. Welcome to Windsor Locks Station. Get ready, here's the platform. That's it, that's the station. This is how it looks to approach the station. Like, what even is that? Approaching Windsor.
Next stop, Hartford. About 10 minutes. Hartford, make your way towards the exit at this time if you're exiting. Hartford. Now arriving Hartford, only one door open. Once again, this is Hartford, make your way towards the exit.
This was during rush hour, so at this point most of the seats had now been taken, with a lot of people boarding in Hartford. Clogged up highway over there. So the tracks here parallel the busway, and we're going at speeds up to 110 miles an hour flying by these buses. I thought that was pretty cool. This is the end of my footage here. I had 2 hours until my final train, so I decided to get off at the New Haven State Street station right in the city instead of the big Union Station. New Haven Union Station's got absolutely nothing nearby. You gotta walk 15 minutes to get into the city. So that is why they built this smaller station. About 2 hours later here, I headed through the interesting tunnel underneath Union Station up to the platform. And I saw this Acela train coming through, but it didn't stop. It's so weird that they have a few trains that don't stop at New Haven. It's such a major station. Non-stop. No New Haven stop. Sadly, my train was delayed by half an hour, so I watched some of the other trains roll in here. No passengers. I see passengers. Shoreline East. Another Acela train heading out here. And finally, here we are, basically dark at this point. It would have been a nice ride along the water, actually being able to see, but you know what? It is what it is. You can kind of see a little bit for a few minutes here. So at this point, the train just makes 2 stops before we get back to Kingston, Old Saybrook, and New London. I think we're about here right now. And here we are approaching Kingston. Right back where I started after 4 trains and over 10 hours.
Parking in any other location besides a legal parking spot is at your own risk.